So a lot of us are wondering what happens if the US does indeed crash through the debt ceiling. What are economists saying? Economists warn worst case outcomes should Congress fail to rise the federal borrowing limit by the X date deadline. And I know you guys see this on other videos, a lot of mumbo jumbo, long videos. You're like, just tell me what to expect. Well, here's 7 doomsday scenarios if the US crashes through the debt ceiling. If you guys are brand new here, welcome to our awesome community where we do prepping tips, emergency preparedness, and news and awareness that could affect you. If you happen to find value in that, be sure to hit the notification bell so you guys can stay up to date. Let's jump into this one. Like I said, not everyone totally understands this, but this is easy to understand. 7 doomsday scenarios on if what they're talking about happens. So let's jump right into it. So this article from the Washington Post just put out federal workers furloughed, Social Security checks for seniors on hold, soaring mortgage rates, a global financial system sent reeling. It's not looking good. Leaders from Congress and the White House are trying to forge an agreement to lift the federal debt ceiling with only a few weeks before the Treasury Department may no longer be able to avert an unprecedented U.S. default. You heard it right. It's coming. If they fail, the government can't meet the payment obligations. Economists and financial experts predict chaos. And this is indeed happening. Maybe another step closer to digital currency, maybe? I can definitely see them using that card to get them out of this pickle. It would be a lethal combination, said Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's. You can see how this thing would really metastasize if the takedown of the entire financial system, which would ultimately take out the economy. For starters, the cascading impacts of default would probably compound. A pause in federal payments would hurt the economy, which would hurt the stock market and would in turn hurt the economy even more, and so on. The interactions between collapsing home values, rising interest rates, and the destabilized global financial system are hard to calculate. Some estimates suggest that more than 8 million jobs could be wiped out. Mortgage rates might soar by more than 20% according to some projections. The economy would contract by as much as it did during the 2008 Great Recession. Now, like I said, a lot can happen, but these are 7 doomsday scenarios that experts worry about the most. Number 1, stock crashes. Wall Street would probably be the first trouble spot. So far, financial markets haven't swung much over the debt ceiling standoff. The price to hedge against the U.S. government defaults has risen, as has the cost of government bonds due around debt ceiling deadlines, reflecting doubt about repayment, but those tremors are not noticeable for most households. And that's true. It's the ripple effects from this. The shock of a missed payment would ripple across the financial system, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, derivatives, before spilling out into the broader economy, experts say. Further down, Moody's Analytics has estimated the stock prices could fall by roughly 1/5, wiping out $10 trillion in household wealth and devastating the retirement accounts of millions of Americans. The White House has estimated that the decline could be closer to 45%. The 46 trillion bond market would also tremble as the values of existing treasury bonds collapse due to higher yields on new ones, and business would likely halt expansion, driving stocks down even more. And this is a high possibility and not good for us. Number 2, a sudden recession. If the standoff persists, the impact would quickly spread from financial markets to the broader economy. A drop in household wealth across the country caused by a sell-off on Wall Street would reduce consumer spending, which would hurt businesses too. And spike in interest rates would make it harder to get a loan or start a small business. That could also crash the already cooling market. A recent report from Zillow projected the default would drive mortgage rates above 8% and push housing sales down by a startling 23%. The Constitution industry and other sectors would feel the pain too. Big trickle effect. And the most drastic impact might be the pause in regular federal payments to tens of millions of Americans' families, including seniors on Medicare and Social Security. and the people relying on food stamps. The federal government is projected to spend roughly $6 trillion in this year, which translates into roughly $16 billion per day. Not all of that goes directly to households, of course, but it's a huge amount of money to vanish from the economy overnight. These are huge impacts that we will most definitely feel. Number 3, federal workers in limbo. The U.S. government has a process for shutting down when Congress fails to approve a new budget. Agencies whose spending hasn't been approved prepare workers for furloughs, instructing certain essential staff that they will keep working without pay. What? Essential staff? No pay? Oh, great. We remember essential workers, right? How about that without pay? There have been 3 shutdowns that have lasted at least a full day over the past decade. Workers are all typically repaid afterward. You hope, but hitting the debt ceiling might look nothing like experts say. The White House Office of Management and Budget has not yet been determined instructions or debt-related shutdowns, which some budget analysts would say it would be difficult because there's no way of knowing which payments of the government won't be able to make. That could change as the deadline nears, but as for now, there is no playbook for keeping even essential federal employees on the job. Number 4, one that a lot of you might be thinking about, Social Security and Medicare missed payments. More than 60 million people receive monthly Social Security payments, mostly seniors. A similar number depend on Medicare for their health insurance. Is that you? Put it down in the comments. Let us know what would happen if this type of scenario unfolded. Some Republicans have claimed that the federal government can continue make these payments even without borrowing by redirecting income tax revenue. But the budget experts are skeptical the Treasury Department will have the ability to send seniors these benefits on time, particularly if the breach lasts for weeks or months. And the reality of it is, if this is going to happen, that's probably how it's going to go down. The government can still make some payments without income tax revenue, and the administration might have to pick up between sending checks to the seniors and making interest payments on the debt, but foregoing those interest payments to keep Social Security and Medicare functioning could exacerbate what would likely be an already severe financial crisis in the Doomsday scenario. And number 5, U.S. borrowing costs soar. The federal government is able to borrow money relatively cheaply because it's seen as a very safe credit risk. No one in normal circumstances expects that it might miss any payments. The safety of U.S. government bonds has made them essential building blocks in the world of financial system, serving as reserves for everything from foreign nations, central banks to money market funds. U.S. Treasury are widely recognized as one of the most secure and liquid investments available, backed by the full faith of credit of the U.S. government. Any financial instrument whose value is based on Treasury bonds could be thrown out of whack after the debt ceiling breach, with sharp drop in prices leading to volatility and uncertainty worldwide. But what do the economists say? Economists say the discount the United States has enjoyed for decades on borrowing could end. One estimate, the Brookings Institution, a DC-based think tank, found that breaching the debt limit could increase federal borrowing costs by $750 billion over the next decade. That's what we call a sinking ship. Number 6, economic problems spread worldwide. Many nations safeguard their finances by buying large amounts of U.S. government debt, widely regarded as one of the safest assets in the world. But breaching the debt ceiling could drive the value of those bonds down, hurting reserves for many nations. Economists fear that it would dramatically increase the ranks of countries drowning in debt like Sri Lanka and Pakistan, with potential rise in protests and global geopolitical instability. The Federal Reserve's push to raise interest rates over the past year to curb inflation has already eroded the value of the U.S. bond holdings for many nations. And according to the Council of Foreign Relations, more than half of the world's currency reserves are held in U.S. dollars, roughly 3 times as much as any other currency. And number 7, the dollar drops along with US prestige. And this is what that means. A default could hurt the US standing on the world stage, experts say, by revealing the debt of the country's internal political dysfunction, which is something that we've probably been sweeping under the rug for a long time. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Already, financial experts have been following some early signs that the world economy is beginning to shed its dependence on the dollar, with countries such as Brazil, Malaysia, calling for nations to trade more frequently in other currencies. Roughly 60% of foreign currency exchange still happen in dollars, but a default on the US debt, which could send the value of the greenbacks reeling, could definitely change that. As Yellen in Japan on Thursday said to reporters about default, it would risk the undermining US global economic leadership and raise questions about our ability to defend the national security interests. And that might be exactly what's going on. A lot of credibility being lost. Something more fundamental may also be at stake. Governments' credibility is tied up in their part and ability to respond to a crisis. A debt ceiling breach would cast doubt on the federal government's capacity not only to respond to an emergency, but also to fulfill one of its most elementary functions, paying the bills. Ain't that right? If the United States can't do that, citizens and leaders in other countries might wonder, what else can't it manage anymore? In conclusion, erode global confidence in our political system because part of our standing in the world is based on international confidence that our political system is basically functional, said Daniel Bergenstresser, an associate professor of finance at Brandeis University's International Business School, and this would show it isn't. Those are 7 doomsday scenarios if the US crashes through the debt ceiling. Probability of this stuff happening? Pretty high. I hope it doesn't get that bad, but we are headed in that direction. A lot of things could happen that could affect us all. Let me know down in the comments what you guys are thinking. Always good to share information. Be sure to get the word out so people are better prepared. If you guys found this interesting, missed out on this video right up here, this video was dynamite. Keep your eyes wide open, head on a swivel, guys. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing. We'll see you guys on the next one.